everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all who are joining us from different parts of the world. I'm Sanket and I work at Network Science as a marketing lead. The mantra of becoming a successful brand has always been to reach out the right customer at the right time. And how do we do that? We do that with the help of effective brand communication. Well, friends, getting a potential customer and retaining the existing one is not less than a telepathic act. Let's welcome Mr. Ajish Pillai on the stage. Ajish
Hello.
is seasoned expert in personalization and conversion rate optimization with over 13 years of experience working with top brands in EMEA and India. He has a proven track record of driving impressive double-digit growth for partners in various variety of sectors through optimizing the website and apps across diverse industries. Ajish, would you like to see something more about you?
Oh no, Sanket, like I believe like you have already covered most of it. Of course, like I have been in the marketing cloud space for almost a decade, out of that 13 years. And yeah, I've been learning things as my career progressed, right? Like so, not anymore related to just conversion rate optimization, but even beyond that, like to CDPs and CRMs. And I think like I have worked with like some of the best minds across multiple, I would say, not just insider, but like some great techs across the globe, right? Like so, again, thank you for having me over here.
It's a pleasure having you. Pleasure having you.
Perfect. So,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of
You
like,
can you can you can present your screen and we can begin the session.
okay, perfect. So let me just quickly share my screen. If just give me a second, I'm just trying to figure out. If you can see it, let me know.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I believe like you had a few questions around these areas, right? Like, so would love to kind of like say here more, but like before we start into it, like also since I have been in the tech space for a while, one of the key things that like we have looked at and what I have seen also, at least like in the last 6 years, taking a time frame of about 6 years, I would say, I will like the customers have more choices. Of course, when it comes to businesses, they have more choices. Every business is trying to expand into say multiple arenas, and of course like they're trying to, there is like very less companies who are like now trying to figure out like what is the niche for them. There are of course companies that are working over there, but at the same time like we see that like customers have so many choices, right? And one of the key things is the amount of communications that you're flooded with, right? Maybe like I can ask you a quick question, Sanket, like how many
Actually,
notifications do you get? How many notifications do you get like per day on your mobile?
since I am a shopping enthusiast, more than 15 notification per day at least.
This is just from the e-commerce apps that you have.
Absolutely.
Look like say, and maybe like a pertinent question post that is like how many of you do you click on it or actually go and browse through the notifications?
Very, very rarely. Probably one or two the most.
Correct, correct. So again, like of course, like one of the key things, like now personally, if I say talk about myself, like I'm a person, of course, like I love shopping as well. But at the same time, like I have closed down all my notifications except for WhatsApp and Gmail, I would say, because that is work related, and I really can't miss out on some of the key important communications. However, like when it comes to say mostly notifications from different brands and from different, I would say, businesses, I've actually shut down all my notifications, and this is a growing trend also, right? As you can see, like year on year, you would see like the people opting into notifications are getting say smaller and smaller. Of course, like it's not very significant yet, but I would believe like there is a change coming in with all of the different, I would say, privacy models that have been built around, like that we will talk about in a while also. But at the same time, like customers are given the choice, right? Like, would you want to be communicated through the brand or not? So one of the key things like that, like we see as a growing trend, and it is getting extremely difficult to kind of get the mind space, and that is what the GIF is also talking about, right? Like, say, how do you kind of grab the mind space of a user? Right, it is really difficult to kind of like say grasp. At least nowadays, like it is really difficult to grasp. And with the screen time that we have, like the most, I would say, mind space is one, but also at the same time the attention span that you have is extremely low. Right, so based on that, like we see that like there is something that needs to be done. There is, of course, like there are different, I would say, ways to kind of like say still communicate. But yes, like this is one of the key things that like we have been seeing as a trend. And of course, like understanding consumer behavior becomes more and more important as we progress along.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ajish, you are completely right here. I'm just putting up a question. Do you think having too many choices, let's say for e-commerce, right now you must be having more than 5 to 6 main players in the market who caters audience in terms of lifestyle products, clothing, all those stuff. So having too many choices is actually creating a problem for both brand and the consumers.
Correct. uh, I would say, look, like I think like the winning party over here is definitely the customers or the consumers, right? The brands are still fighting between each other to kind of drop prices, give out discounts. The cost of acquisition is really going up because of these competitions that have been created, and consumers do have a choice now, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
in in some way, is there a bad way to kind of look at it, like from a consumer point? I don't think so. Like I'm also a consumer in some space, right? Like, and is it a bad choice? Like, say, recently I was buying a sneaker. Sorry, I'm a sneaker buff, so I was buying a sneaker, uh, and I actually went ahead and I bought it, by the way, through that specific business that was there, and it was delivered also. But for some reason, like I was like, okay, let me just go and check like what is the price for this sneaker, right? Like I did not do any research. Like I just like the sneaker, I just bought it out of it. I would say an impulse buy, you would say. But as a good consumer, like I went back and I saw that like it is actually 25% less on another website. Now, what would a consumer do here? Of course, is to return that sneaker and buy it at a 25% less price, right? So I believe like the negative side to this is, of course, like say the brands are the ones that are getting affected by this, right? Your, like I said, like your cost of acquisition goes up, your, I would say, margins go down, like your profitability goes down. So again, like it is important to stay competitive in the space, specifically when it comes to shopping and like other things also, right? Similar to, of course, like even food verticals, like if we are talking about Zomato and Swiggy also, right? Like if you look at prices, most people are looking at prices, who is giving more discounts, who has a delivery free charge, etc. Also.
Yeah, ultimately that makes a lot of brands stay ahead of their competition, provide us competitive pricing, better products. I believe there are some brands like Flipkart who have started a special kind of a delivery. Since we were having really bad experience finding a stone or a soap in the iPhone cases, they have started the assured delivery and other stuff. So I think it definitely helps us as a consumer to have a lot of options in hand.
Absolutely. And like I still believe like consumers should have the option. Of course, the only other thing that like I would believe would be the right way to kind of look at this is how do you become smarter as a brand or a business, right? It's not necessary that like you have to dish out a discount all the time, right? And loyalty, unfortunately, we talk about loyalty quite a bit uh, in every session. And like I would say, I believe Unnat was also talking about Pizza Hut, but is there like real loyalty? I don't think so, right? Like because people who get cheaper prices anywhere else, like they would actually go for it. Of course, like quality matters, and there are certain aspects which actually bring in loyalty, right? It is not the communications, it is not, it is how the brand is behaving with the customer is what how the loyalty is. I was a 100% Zomato loyal person when at least in Dubai when I was using it, right? And unfortunately it shut down, so I had like, okay, like I don't have any other choice, so I need to go to probably Noon or Talabat, right? So definitely that is there, but yeah, and like it also depends on the quality, the service that you're providing that brings in loyalty rather than like the products that you're actually selling.
Wonderful. Just extending the question, like you spoke about Zomato, which brand do you feel has done a phenomenal job of understanding the consumer's taste, and they have mastered this entire, they have outsmarted their competition.
Outsmarted their competition, I would say. As like I don't think so like I have any say right or wrong answers to this, or I would say if I have to kind of like say simplify this, uh, but somehow I was always like say connected to Zomato more than like say probably Swiggy. Even when I went back to like I go back to India every probably 3 times a year. So every time I go back, also like I'm still stuck to Zomato, right? And that might be to do with like say how their product is, how of course like say their services, the quality, etc. We all have had bad experiences with delivery also. But overall, if I see like globally, I would say some of the best ones that I have seen, like ASOS is definitely something as like they are still going through. I would say I can say they did outsmart, but like they're still going through a financial crunch right now. But ASOS definitely did a great job into understanding consumer behavior, having the right communication at the right time. Uh, and of course, like say global brands are there, like Spotify definitely. I think like one of the best I would say in the market when it comes to music. uh, Netflix did crack it, but somehow nowadays like it feels boring on Netflix. And of course, like not to mention like Amazon definitely knows how to crack it. Specifically, how they have built their entire engine. I wouldn't say Amazon is the best when it comes to communications, which is of course through emails or push notifications, but how they have mastered the art of personalization on the website, on the app, and showing you relevant products. I think that is one of the best ways you can actually get, I would say, the stickiness that you need to your business, right? Even whenever I go to Amazon, like I know like what I want, and the recommendations that come in, they have built a beautiful recommendation engine. Of course, like almost 30-35% of their revenue actually comes from the recommendation engine that they have built, right? So these are the carousels that you see when you're viewing a product or you're adding something to product. So I think like it's a very well known case study, of course, across the globe, and it still continues to be, and they keep innovating. So I think like one of the key things, like one of course my favorite brands is still Zomato in India, and then of course like globally I would say Amazon or Spotify hits the nail when it comes to consumer experience or customer experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
Perfect. Shall we move ahead?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. So now, of course, like say one of the key things that like we also need to understand that the landscape is changing quite a bit. Like why is customer acquisition costs going up like year on year? And of course, like it is only going to get harder, like say post 2024, when one of the biggest browsers in the world is actually going to eliminate third-party cookies. Now we have already seen the changes from Apple, where of course like it started from 2017, then came 2018 where GDPR came into place. Then of course like say 2090s and 19, Google of course announced that like okay they are going to eliminate cookies, etc. And then like of course the big announcement from iOS 14, where of course like it became optional to even give your say personal information to third party cookies, etc. So this makes it like, and of course like we are all anticipating when Google is going to do it. Of course they have already announced it since 2019, but it's just a matter of time that like it gets more and more expensive. So today like how we can actually say follow a customer across like their acquisition cycle, and show them ads at relevant places, like it is just going to be harder and harder. Of course, there is a good side to it is that Apple and Google are going to be richer. But the bad side to is these businesses that we have, and when we look at like say acquisition as a uh, performance marketing, I would say activity, it's going to get harder and it is going to get more expensive. And this is one of the key reasons why, since the last, I would say 36 months to be more accurate, like since the last 3 years, and more or less, like I believe, like since COVID began, like I believe, like there is a changing trend to most businesses actually trying to figure out how they can actually do first party data, right? And how they can own that first party data and how they can stitch this first party data and create their own databases instead of like say relying on always, okay, let me figure out how do I acquire more users, right? Maybe there is already 50% of your user base is already new users, probably never have purchased, but how do I do that, right? So this is very important that like most businesses understand the landscape change that is coming up in the next couple of years also.
Also, I think having a first party data helps brands to, put their own criteria. Okay, geographical, it could be segmentation, it could be certain attributes. They can have the data in their way to understand their customers in a better way. And like you
100%.
mentioned, there are so many restrictions which are coming up from different governments. Do you think the brands will eventually move a little more towards the field marketing, where there is a little less restriction instead of online? Do you have any take on this?
I might not be the best person to kind of answer this, uh, right? Because like I work in the digital field so much that like I might be myopic to my answer. Uh, but yes, like I believe there would be an uprise in the field marketing side also, right? The main challenge with the field marketing side might be I would say the accuracy of the data, because everything is data driven right nowadays, right? Like so, uh, most people have started questioning, as like we still, as like you would still say see billboards across like say multiple locations across India or of course like UAE, but like a lot of like say brands have started questioning like should we even put these billboards, right? Like, and should we even like say use this, right? Massive brands definitely will use billboards, like say it is a brand recognition for them, and they will continue to do it, like Apple and of course like say Samsungs of the world, they will continue to do it. But like say for smaller brands, like does it make a difference? In some way, yes. Sometimes when I'm traveling on the road, and I would see a new brand, probably in any of the verticals, I would say like it definitely catches my attention, right? And I would go and definitely do a search on that. But again, like I said, like it might be very different to how UAE is, because you don't see a lot of billboards versus how India is, where you might see a lot of billboards, and your attention span is again very less. So, like I
Absolutely,
said, like I might not be the best person to answer this, but yeah, like I still believe like there is a big part for field marketing to be placed. OOH will probably can be kind of molded into more data backed, I would say. I would say data-backed decisions can be taken out of the OOH media also, right? But of course, like those technologies need to also evolve along with time.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we can move ahead with next.
Perfect. So again, like one, I think like this might be the last slide before we step into the demo also. Now, when we look at like say the old way of like say thinking, like we look at like say customer life cycle as like say reach, act, convert, and engage, right? And it might look like a four-step process and looks pretty easy, right? Like you create an awareness campaign, you acquire the customer somehow makes the first purchase through discounts or anything else, and then like of course like you then continue the entire retention, etc. However, in the new world, as we can see, it's not new world by the way, like it has always continued, but we didn't never had the means to understand like how complex it can get. Like a customer lifecycle status can get really, really complex. And for example, a lot of brands, say in the e-commerce side or retail side or say fashion side, they think like say having like anybody who does not purchase within 30 days or 60 days, might be a churned customer, or maybe like in some cases can be 90 days. However, in real world or like in real life situations, that can be very different to what Sanket is doing. Sanket might churn in 5 days, by the way, whereas Ajish can churn in probably 120 days. We have very different life cycles because we are different people, by the way. So it is almost hard to kind of like say any marketer to kind of like say uh, understand like, okay, like this is, I will set a set of like say traditional rules like 30, 60, or 90 days, and say that like, okay, by this time like we should expect that like this customer would churn if they don't purchase. However, that is not the case. Like I said, every user will have their own type of churn cycle, and this is where the complexity increases, and this is where it needs to be a little bit more predictive. There needs to be more propensity models built around, like say, the customer lifecycle status and how you can actually retain them, acquire them, activate them, and of course, like say, convert them. And all of these, of course, like ultimately leading to a better ROI, better revenue, etc. from your end.
Absolutely. And to add more into it, I just have a question. How important do you think is the personalization in customer acquisition? And how can a business personalize their marketing efforts to attract and convert that potential customer?
Yeah. There is no doubt that every business should use personalization. However, it also depends on the scale that you are at, right? I would not say that like personalization is for everyone, right? Like if you have like very less amount of traffic, or like there is a certain say cut off, like say below that traffic, I believe like you should still continue doing like what you're doing in terms of acquiring customers, etc. Also, however, as you grow in traffic, personalization has to become important, especially if you're a business with say multiple SKUs, or like there is 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 products. And of course, like we have businesses that have like say 2.5 million SKUs, etc. It is going to be extremely hard for a customer to come to your business, your digital online businesses, and say, okay, how do I figure out what do I want out of like say 2.5 million SKUs that you there? Then of course like there is filtering, etc. also that is present. But yes, like I think like one of the key things that like every business who has reached a certain level of like say medium, probably we can call it medium enterprise and enterprise level, should start focusing on personalization. And even the smaller companies can look at personalization, but like say more from a communication perspective, like when are you sending out your SMS, when are you sending out your email, what is the kind of emails that you're sending out. So personalization is an absolute necessity. It is not anymore a want. 100%, there is no want anymore. It is a need of the hour that you need to personalize. Like I said in the previous slide, attention span is low. The mind space that you need to get out of to put your brand right on top of the head of the customer is going to be extremely extremely difficult. So it definitely needs like a better personalized experience, better customer experience, better of course like say UI UX, etc. There is of course not just one aspect to it. There are like say multiple aspects to it as you progress along.
Absolutely, absolutely true. I think that that is the actual case with a lot of newsletters. So we tend to get more than 10, 15 emails from a lot of companies, and many of them says hi, hello, hey, we are here. But we tend to not open them, have a look at them. But the moment we say, okay, hi Sanket, how are you doing? I think there is a high chance that we at least open that email. It's debatable that we actually go through that entire email, but yeah,
Sure.
that at least opens the window for the brand.
That's definitely a first step, by the way. Like of course like I like being in the personalization space for so long, like I believe like using the first name in your communication is should be by, it should be mandatory and by default, right? But like I think like one of the key emails that I open from say brands is if they are recommending me something that I have already purchased, and recommending me the next set of products that they would like to kind of me to buy from them. I think like this is one of the, this is again like very personal opinion though, I open these emails quite a bit. If I purchase something like electronic and I get a email saying here are the next recommended items for you, right, based on your last purchase of HP laptop, etc., or the last S23 that you have bought, I will definitely look at it because it is contextual, right? So bringing in context to how and where your customers are is one layer on top of the personalization. So personalization starts, and then like you have to bring in the context to it. So contextualization is the next part of, like, say, personalization. So definitely, I think like one of the key things that every business should focus on as you progress along in your life cycle, also as a business life cycle, also.
Oh, that's a wonderful insight to have. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we can start with it.
Perfect. So, if for everyone on the call again, like, thank you for joining in and thank you for listening to me and Sanket. Like, we would like to kind of like say quickly introduce you to Insider. We are a global company with 26 different offices. We're established back in 2012, so it's been almost a decade of, like, say, operating across, like, say, the global uh, regions. And of course, like, we have close to 1200 plus enterprise clients across the globe who are using multiple products. Inside is a pretty large enterprise solution. So of course, like, in those terms, like, we do see most of our customers actually in the enterprise side. Currently, we work with like about 1200 plus clients across the globe. And today at date, like, I would say we are 1100 team members, which basically would turn into about 1500 by the end of the year, right? So we are growing at a fast pace from our end. And some of our key investors have been Sequoia, Qatar Investment Authority, and Riverwood Capital as we progressed along in our life cycle also. Now, what does Insider do? Let's take like very few examples. One of the key things that we spoke about is like how first party data is becoming more and more important. So the main job of Insider is to, of course, like, say, combine all of these data sources that might be sitting in different silos. Web and app, of course, like, it's the most basic, I would say, databases that we need to connect. But there can be, of course, like, say, DMPs, which is more or less obsolete, but there can be DSPs, there can be MMPs, there can be, of course, like, say, attribution tools. There can be, of course, like, say, any offline CRMs, CMSs, etc. that can also be there. And you might have, like, say, your own data lakes, connectors, etc. also your product data, which is basically your entire catalog, your loyalty data, and of course, like, your campaign data. Now, when you keep on growing as a company, it kind of, like, say, gets siloed at so many places that it ultimately becomes very hard for any tech team or product team to actually combine these. So this is where, of course, like, Insider comes in. We, of course, like, say, standardize this data, and then, like, it flows into three different parts. One we call as the unified customer profiles. Second, of course, we have built our own propensity models, which kind of helps you predict the user's behavior based on certain parameters that are there. And of course, through this, like, we are also looking at insight generation, which is basically the analytics through which you can create different flows, cohorts, analytics that you would like to see. However, it does not end over there. The main job of Insider is to drive revenue, to drive ROI, to drive personalization, to drive contextualization. Right? So when we look at it, like, there are multiple products that, like, Insider uses. The main I would say, we started as a personalization company. Of course, like, we did web personalizations, app personalizations, recommendations. Then we, of course, like, forayed into completely messaging, which, of course, like, uses traditional and native, or of course, like, the new age channels like email, WhatsApp, push, SMS, etc. Currently, we also, of course, like, retarget the audience that we are creating as audiences from here through segmentation, and of course, like, any additional channels that you would like to kind of do. So our job, in very simple terms, is to collect all the data, put it into one place, standardize the data, create, like, these profiles, and based on that, like, we would be able to kind of, like, say, use it for any actions which can be across all of these parts. All right. Any questions from you, Sanket? Like, if you have, of course, like, say, would love to kind of take it.
I think we do have certain questions from the audience. Uh,
Okay.
so, what integration capabilities does the platform offer to connect with existing marketing tools and the systems?
Interesting question, and of course, like, say, it's about, like, say, scoping out, like, what type of, like, say, current systems do you have? Like, do you have legacy systems or systems that have already built-in API endpoints? If you have already built-in API endpoints, like, you have REST APIs, but we do have, like, say, native connections with, like, say, the likes of Mixpanel, Amplitude, Adjust, AppsFlyer, Branch. These are some of the ones like Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce Commerce Clouds, Shopify, Magento, etc. So we have close to 100 plus native integrations. But if anything is like beyond that, of course, we have the REST API connections. We have close to build about 35 different API connectors or REST APIs, which essentially takes care of like any of the connections that you have.
So that
Perfect.
was a quite insightful answer. Thank you. Also, we have another question. Are
Sure.
there are any limitations or challenges that the businesses should be aware when implementing an AI-based marketing automation platform?
AI based marketing automation, I would say any software implementation that you should do, you should go through a very detailed, I would say, understanding of how the software works, right? And this should be in terms of scale. Like if you're looking at an automation tool, which basically means like you're also looking at how many emails can it send. And you should definitely say take it in writing from the software industries or the software customers that like okay, this is per second or per minute or every 5 minutes we are able to send these many emails, these many push notifications, these are the different things. When it comes to of course like say AI based predictions, it should be more towards like how detailed are they, if it is a black box or like are you able to change it. This again depends quite a bit from companies to companies. So enterprise level companies have their own kind of like say propensity models that they would like to push, but say smaller companies don't have the time, don't have the team, don't have BI teams who can actually start building these propensity models. So basically they can use out of box models directly through Insider, so wherever of course like these segmentations come into place. So definitely those are some of the things that like you can look at. And of course like it's always necessary for the tech team to be involved. I believe somebody from the tech team should be always involved in the evaluations, because I believe tech or developers definitely know say software better than the marketeers, at least the back end side and the front end side. And they would of course like help you better in understanding or gauging like whether you should go ahead with this product or not. I hope that answers the question, but if you have further questions, I would love to kind of like say take it later.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ajish. Thank you for taking out your time and taking us through wonderful, insights about customer acquisition. We really love to connect again and have a wonderful session again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanket. Like absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.
Uh, yeah. Dear audience, we do have polls on your right hand side of the screen. Do let us know if you have enjoyed our session. Do let us know if you have any specific feedback about our event or this session. Thank you so much. We please tune in for the next session. Thank you. Have a good day.